I told myself I only came to the gym for discipline, to get stronger, to burn off energy, to stop thinking so much. But then she walked over and ruined that plan in one sentence. "One more set," she said, her voice steady, the kind that didn't allow excuses. I should have just nodded like everyone else did. Instead, I stared too long at her hand resting on the dumbbell rack, her nails chipped, her wrist faintly trembling, like she carried her own kind of weight. Dark hair tied back, a loose sweatshirt that didn't quite hide how strong she was, and an expression that told you she had seen much worse than your awkward attempts at charm. I didn't know why I'd said it. Maybe because the air between us already felt strange, charged, like a current running underneath the clang of weights and the faint buzz of gym lights. "All right then," she said finally, stepping closer, her voice low enough I had to lean in. "I'll count." She stood next to me, and suddenly the room felt smaller. I dropped into the set, every rep slower than it needed to be, not because of the weight but because of her voice. 1. Her tone was calm, precise, but I heard something under it, something she didn't mean to show. 2. Her hand brushed the bar to steady it, though I didn't need the help. 3. She hesitated, just a fraction too long, and I felt her eyes on me. By the time she said 10, I wasn't sure if my chest was tight from the lift or from her. I racked the bar and sat up, wiping sweat from my forehead. She was standing too close. Not inappropriate, not obvious, just close enough that if I moved even an inch forward, I might brush against her. "You push harder when someone's watching?" she said, crossing her arms, as if reminding herself to keep some distance. "And you watch closely," I answered before I could stop myself. Silence stretched between us. Not the casual kind, but the kind that makes every sound around you louder. The thud of sneakers on mats, the hum of a treadmill, the metallic clink of plates sliding on a bar. Her lips parted like she was about to say something sharp, but instead she gave the smallest shake of her head. "Focus on your form," she murmured, already turning away. But I saw it, the faintest smile tugging at her mouth as she walked off, like she hadn't expected me to notice. I wanted to call after her, to turn the moment into something more, but my throat locked up. Instead, I watched her weave between machines, her shoulders pulled tight, her steps too fast, like she was running from something. That night, I couldn't stop hearing her voice counting with me. Not the words, but the pauses, the little slips where her control cracked. And maybe that's why the next day, when I saw her again across the gym, I didn't wait for her to speak first. I walked up, stood where she couldn't ignore me, and said the only thing I could think of. "Your turn." She blinked at me when I said it. "Your turn." For a second, I thought she might laugh. Instead, she stared, quiet, the kind of look that makes you want to backpedal. But she didn't walk away. "My turn?" she repeated, voice softer this time. "You think I need someone counting for me?" I shrugged, trying to look casual though my palms were sweating. "Everyone does, sometimes." Something flickered in her eyes, too quick to catch, and she let out a breath that wasn't quite a laugh. "You're bold for someone who just started here." I didn't tell her I had noticed she always worked out late, when the place was nearly empty, that she never lingered in the lobby or chatted like the others did, that when she bent to retie her shoes, she kept her head down too long, like she didn't want to be seen. Instead, I followed her to the squat rack, and before I could stop myself, I was spotting for her. She lifted heavy, heavier than most people I'd seen, her jaw tight, shoulders locked. Each rep looked like she was wrestling something invisible. I caught myself staring at the way a strand of hair slipped from her bun, clinging to her cheek. "Don't," she muttered between breaths, voice breaking the silence. "Don't what?" "Don't look at me like that." She racked the bar with a sharp clang, standing tall, chest rising and falling. Heat shot to my face. I wanted to deny it, joke it off, but she didn't give me the chance. She grabbed her towel and sat on the bench, elbows on her knees, staring at the floor. "I wasn't," I started. "You were." She cut in, not harsh, just tired. Then after a pause, quieter, "It's been a long week." There it was, a crack in her armor. I sat down across from her, not too close, Bad week. She rubbed her temple, eyes closed. Divorce papers came in yesterday. Official, finally. I thought I'd feel free. But I just feel like someone misplaced me. The room seemed to tilt. For the first time, she didn't look untouchable. She looked like a person sitting on the edge of something sharp. I swallowed. Sorry. I didn't know. Her lips curved, but it wasn't a smile. Of course you didn't. Why would you? We sat there, silence stretching, broken only by the hum of machines. I wanted to reach out, but my hand stayed frozen on my knee. She glanced up at me then, and the weight of it nearly knocked the air from my chest. You should go. It's late. I should have listened. I should have nodded and left. But my feet didn't move. You don't have to, I said, my voice low. Her gaze lingered, searching, uncertain. Then, just briefly, her hand brushed against my forearm, like she was testing how it felt. It was nothing, barely a touch, but it was enough to set everything spiraling. Her fingers barely grazed my arm, but it felt like a match struck in a dark room. I didn't breathe, afraid she'd notice how fast my pulse was jumping. She pulled her hand back quickly, as if the touch had burned her too. I shouldn't have done that, she whispered, eyes darting toward the mirrors on the wall, like they might betray us. I tried to speak, but words tangled in my throat. I wanted to say it's fine or I didn't mind, but none of it felt enough. Instead, I leaned back, staring at the floor tiles, fighting to steady myself. That should have been the end of it. But then she sighed, rubbing the back of her neck, and for a second, her shoulders slumped. No armor, no careful distance, just exhaustion. Long day, I asked, trying to sound casual. She gave me a sideways look. Long year. Something tightened in my chest. I wanted to know what she meant, wanted to press further, but I didn't dare. The silence that followed was heavier than anything in the gym. Her phone buzzed on the bench between us, the sharp sound snapping her upright. She glanced at the screen, jaw tightening, then flipped it over without answering. Someone important? I asked before I could stop myself. No one I want to talk to. Her voice was flat, but her hand lingered on the phone like it had power over her. I nodded, though I couldn't stop staring at the way her fingers trembled when she finally pulled them away. Divorce, late nights alone, calls she didn't want to answer. I could piece together enough. And still, I didn't move. You shouldn't look at me like that, she said again, softer this time, like she wasn't scolding but warning. I'm not. I began, but the words betrayed me. I can't help it. The confession hung in the air, reckless. Too much. She didn't speak, just stared at me, lips parted, chest rising fast. For a moment I thought she might lean in, or maybe I was only imagining it. Then the locker room door opened. A man walked out, earbuds in, glancing at us briefly before heading for the treadmills. Just a stranger, but the spell cracked instantly. She straightened, tucking her hair behind her ear, her face back to stone. We should stop talking like this, she murmured, voice clipped. Like what? Like we're about to. She cut herself off, pressing her lips together, shaking her head. I swallowed, forcing a laugh I didn't feel. We're not. But even as I said it, my body leaned a fraction closer, betraying me. She noticed, of course she did. Her gaze flicked to my mouth for a split second before she caught herself. And that was when I knew. It didn't matter what either of us said. We were already standing at the edge of something we weren't supposed to touch. The next evening, I almost didn't go. I told myself it was safer, skip a day, break whatever rhythm had started forming. But my feet carried me there anyway, and before I knew it, she was already on the mat, stretching, eyes closed, headphones in. I should have turned around. I didn't. She noticed me in the mirror before I said a word. Pulling her earbuds out, she gave a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. Back again. Couldn't stay away, I said, half joking, though it came out too bare, too sharp. Her smile faltered. She looked down, twisting the cord of her headphones in her hands. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because. She cut herself off, jaw tightening. The silence swelled between us. I sat down on the floor opposite her, close enough to see the small scar along her eyebrow, the fine lines by her mouth, close enough that her breathing synced almost with mine. Finally, she spoke. You remind me of mistakes I thought I'd buried. Her voice was low, almost trembling. I leaned forward before I realized it. Is that all I am? A mistake waiting to happen? Her eyes snapped to mine. For once, no shield. You're too young. You don't know what you're asking for. I'm not asking, I said, my throat tight. I notice you. The way you hold everything in like it's gonna break you if you let it out. The way you stay until the gym's almost empty, like you're waiting for the silence. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her fingers curled into the mat, knuckles pale. I shouldn't let you say these things, she whispered. You don't understand the cost. Then explain it to me. Her laugh was hollow. You think it's just about desire? About an age gap? No, it's about me knowing better. And still, she trailed off, eyes flicking to mine, and that unfinished thought pressed harder against the air than anything she could have said. We were too close now. My hand hovered, aching to close the distance, but I didn't move. Neither did she. Say it, I murmured. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. If I let this happen, it won't just be a gym crush. You'll see parts of me I don't show anyone. And I don't know if you'd stay. Her honesty hit harder than any weight I'd ever lifted. I wanted to swear I would. To promise I wasn't like the others she'd lost. But the words tangled, stuck. Instead, we sat there, breathing the same thin air, hearts hammering. Her eyes locked on mine, unblinking. Tell me, she said finally, voice breaking. What do you really want from me? The question hung there, heavy, dangerous, impossible to answer without crossing the line completely. Her question lingered in the air. What do you really want from me? I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, her phone buzzed again on the mat between us. She froze, staring at the screen. This time she didn't flip it over. She let it ring, vibrating against the rubber floor until it stopped. Then, quietly, she whispered, It's him. I frowned. Your ex. She nodded once, her jaw set, but her hands betrayed her, shaking as she tucked the phone away. He doesn't stop. Calls, texts showing up where he knows I'll be. And I can't even tell him to stop because it still feels like I owe him something. The air shifted. All this time I thought she was just distant because of me. My age, my persistence. But no, she was already being pulled apart by something else. Someone else. That's not fair, I said, sharper than I intended. Life isn't fair. She laughed dryly, rubbing her face. You're too young to understand that yet. The words stung, but I didn't let them go unanswered. You keep saying that, too young, like it erases everything I see, everything I feel. Her gaze snapped to mine, hard, but I didn't look away. You think you're the only one carrying something? I went on, my chest tight. You don't know what it's like to be invisible until someone finally. I stopped myself, biting down hard on the rest. Until someone finally what? She pressed, leaning in, her voice low and urgent. I exhaled, my hands balling into fists. Until someone finally sees you, not as just another face or a kid who doesn't know better, but as someone worth noticing. Her expression softened in an instant. The steel in her eyes cracked, and what came through wasn't pity. It was recognition. She whispered, almost to herself, God, you sound just like him. The words hit like a blow. Like who? She hesitated, then finally said it. My brother. When he was your age, he used to say the same thing. That no one ever really saw him. He died 10 years ago. And sometimes when you speak... She trailed off, pressing her palm to her chest, as if steadying her heart. The room spun. A strange connection had opened. One I hadn't expected. One that made the air between us heavier than before. I wasn't just some young man chasing something he shouldn't. To her, I had become tangled with memory, grief, and something dangerously close to comfort. Her hand trembled as she reached for me, then stopped short, curling into her lap. You shouldn't remind me of him, she whispered. It makes this worse. My voice cracked. Or maybe it makes it real. She stared at me then, long, unbroken, as if searching for an answer she didn't want to find. And for the first time, I didn't know whether we were about to break apart completely or finally fall into each other. The silence after her words felt unbearable. You shouldn't remind me of him. It echoed in my head, twisting between us like a barrier I hadn't seen coming. I almost stood, almost left. It would have been the safer thing to do. But instead, I stayed, my hands braced on my knees, leaning toward her. You're not the only one afraid, I said finally, my voice unsteady. Her eyes flicked up. Afraid of what? Of saying the wrong thing, of ruining it, of wanting too much. My throat tightened. But I can't sit here pretending you're just my trainer. I can't. Her breath caught, and I saw the shift, the moment when her guard faltered, when the weight of everything she'd held back threatened to collapse. She whispered, "You make me feel young, and guilty, and alive, all at once. Do you understand what kind of chaos that is for me?" I shook my head. No, but I understand what it's like to wait your whole life for someone to look at you like you're not invisible. And you do that without even trying. Her lips parted, trembling, but no sound came. I reached out, slow, hesitant, and this time she didn't pull away. My hand covered hers, warm, grounding. Her fingers twitched, then closed around mine, tight, as if she'd been holding on to air for too long. The gym around us blurred into nothing. It didn't matter that someone could walk in, or that her phone might buzz again. In that moment, it was just the two of us, two people standing on the wrong side of the line, daring to step over it anyway. You shouldn't, she whispered, but her grip didn't loosen. Then tell me to stop, I breathed. Her eyes searched mine, wet at the edges, torn between reason and something wilder. Seconds stretched like years. Then she exhaled, shaky, and whispered the truth that neither of us could take back. I don't want you to. The words shattered everything. The denial, the distance, the excuses. She leaned forward, forehead almost brushing mine, and I felt her breath, warm, uneven. Not a kiss, not yet. Just the closeness of two people finally admitting what had always been there. Her voice trembled. If this happens, it changes everything. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. Maybe that's the point. We stayed like that, locked in a silence that said more than words could. Her hand in mine, her face inches away, both of us teetering on the edge of something irreversible. And for once, neither of us moved back. We stayed there, frozen in that almost kiss. Her hand clamped around mine as if letting go would undo everything. And maybe it would have. The silence broke first. Not by us, but by the faint hum of the vending machine in the corner, the clatter of a barbell dropped by someone on the other side of the gym. The world hadn't stopped, even if it felt like ours had. She leaned back just enough to look at me fully. Her eyes were glassy, torn but clear. This isn't what I planned for my life. I know, I whispered. It isn't what I planned for mine either. She gave a shaky laugh at that, and for the first time in days it didn't sound bitter. Just human. God, you're so young, she said. Not as an insult this time, but like it was a fact she was trying to hold in her hands. And you're not as untouchable as you pretend, I countered softly. Her smile faltered, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she squeezed my hand tighter, her thumb brushing over my knuckles in a way that felt both terrifying and grounding. Something had shifted between us. Not just attraction, though that burned hotter than ever, but recognition. She wasn't my trainer anymore, not really. She wasn't just the older woman with walls I couldn't climb. She was someone who had shown me her cracks, her regrets, her grief. And in return, I had shown her the one thing she thought she'd lost, the ability to feel wanted again. She let out a long breath, her shoulders lowering as though she'd set down a weight. If we do this, it won't be simple. Nothing worth it ever is, I said. We sat there in that truth, no longer running from it. She reached out and touched my face, so gently it almost didn't feel real. And then, finally, she closed the last inch between us. The kiss wasn't perfect. It wasn't smooth or practiced or anything you'd expect. It was hesitant, uneven, like two people stepping into unknown territory. But it was real. And when we pulled apart, I saw it in her eyes. The fear hadn't disappeared, but it no longer controlled her. "I don't know where this leads," she admitted. "Neither do I said. "But we're here. Together. That's enough." And it was. When I look back now, I don't think of the age gap or the warnings we whispered to ourselves. I think of the way she finally let herself smile, the way her voice softened when she said my name, the way we both learned that sometimes the most dangerous choices are the ones that make you feel alive again. Because in the end, it wasn't about rules or timelines. It was about two people finding each other when they least expected it. And maybe that's all love really is. Messy, unplanned, impossible, but undeniable. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?